Hey everyone, it's Ivan with kitbadger.com, out here to tell you about the 2-day AMTAC Shooting Vehicle Carbine Course. As the name implies, 2 days, carbines, vehicles. So, day one was actually all live fire. So started out down there after initially safety reef, stuff like that, up at the AMTAC Training Center. Got down there and worked on just everyone having a good functional zero. Went pretty quick. I think largely everyone's gun was zeroed. Some stuff, of course, people travel, things get beat up, have to adjust stuff, but everyone got a good solid working zero. Then moved up closer and Bill's classes, pretty much regardless of whatever class, whether it's a pistol class or a rifle class, that then progresses something else, always kind of a compressed fundamentals class. So initially starting out with going over circle of awareness, and then from there moving through a number of different fundamentals with respect to shooting, in this case carbine. So working through whether it's grip or stance, breaking those, reestablishing those, and working through a number of things. And then at the same time, because of distance target, largely working that mechanical offset. And we of course got reps working from strike ready as well as low ready, and getting into some touch point shots as well. And with it being a vehicle course, got into, of course, vehicle work. And while it was definitely carbines and vehicles, there was a really big emphasis on essentially small unit tactics, for lack of a better term, basically working with other people. And so ended up going through a number of reps. Of course, started out just running dry, and then the whole crawl, walk, run. And basically, depending on how the vehicle was oriented, getting a number of different reps, exiting the vehicle, putting on cover fire, moving while your partner was covering you, and going through and getting reps. It was cool getting to just work through a number of different reps, in part, fairly small class. I think there were only like 9 of us or something like that. And basically getting to shoot through that. I will say, footing was real. Down there on the range, definitely some fairly muddy, uneven terrain, but that's also life. And yeah, out there getting reps. Cool time out there on day one. Mainstay of any of the AMTAC shooting classes, which is honestly really cool, is a mindset talk. So beginning of day 2 was a mindset talk. I won't steal the thunder, but if you ever have an opportunity to go to any of the AMTAC shooting classes, you will get to experience it, and yeah, definitely pretty cool. After that, we were in it for day 2, and there was no more live fire. Live fire was just day 1. Day 2 was actually all airsoft, and so pretty much all day it was force on force, tons of reps. And again, as I had mentioned earlier, kind of this bent on small unit tactics. And so initially started out kind of a opportunity to learn the value of flanking. And so there were essentially some defenders set up and they could not move, and you had attackers and they attacked the defenders. And so very quickly, after cycling through a couple of different reps, the answer was clear, like immediately flank. Set down a base of fire if need be and flank, because the defenders, per the way it was set up, couldn't move, which made them stationary. And so yeah, very quickly you learn, hey, flanking is probably the answer. And same with respect to vehicles, or that same principle applying to it, as far as getting out and flanking, should you be ambushed or something like that. So from there, we just moved into kind of a number of different situations that were set up, and all of them largely centered around vehicles. And with the group of people we had, we basically constantly rotated through who was the aggressor, who was the defender, or respectively who was in the vehicle, who was out of the vehicle, and just different orientations as far as how the situation started. Whether the attackers were above, over off to the flank of the vehicle, or directly in front, almost set up like a checkpoint, whatever it may be, and just going through and getting reps. Overall, it was a pretty cool course. It was definitely kind of unique also, like not something you see a lot of. And talking with Bill, it was kind of one of those courses where he would just never teach it. And then 2020 happened. So what do I mean by that? Well, there historically, especially during the GWAT, lots of illegal checkpoints. So over in Afghanistan, stuff like that. I definitely experienced a bunch of checkpoints when I was over there, mainly security contracting. Bill, while serving in the teams, ran into a bunch of them doing low pro stuff over there. And yeah, checkpoints are real. Not something we see here in America. And then 2020, and actually a lot of illegal checkpoints kind of started popping up. And you still see them sometimes, largely with respect to protests. We'll use that term very loosely, where, yeah, essentially illegal checkpoints get set up where you have this group of people controlling intersections, allowing flow, or illegally allowing the flow of traffic, things like that. Does that mean you go to guns every time? Absolutely not. Like, avoidance, first and foremost, lower level of violence win, good day. But depending on the situation, like, it absolutely can happen, as we have seen actually here in the US. Like, illegal checkpoints don't usually go well for, honestly, anyone involved, but especially drivers and passengers of vehicles. So this was kind of largely centered around that. It was definitely cool being able to get, obviously, a live fire portion that you couldn't do on day 2, where we basically repped it out with force on force. I will say I'm not a fan. This was kind of the first class I actually did with like Airsoft, and actually not a fan. If you saw my loadout video, yeah, I ran into a bunch of issues. And Airsoft, come to find out, is definitely one of those like pay-to-play things, as far as you need to spend a certain amount of money to have one that is actually decent and will pretty much shoot where you're trying to shoot. Personally, I think UTM's way better. Granted, it's more expensive as far as like per round, but if you're out buying like 300 rounds of UTM versus buying a whole airsoft setup or whatever, it's probably cheaper, and you get to use your gun. But we ended up using Airsoft. Ultimately, though, it was pretty cool, and yeah, largely pretty neat getting to do something focused on that small unit tactics, working together with people and stuff like that. But yeah, overall pretty cool class. And this obviously was one of many different classes you can find at AMTAC Training. There'll be links down below if you want to check it out. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.